Many people inside of the Blue Lock community had speculated that Shidou was done for and that there would be no chance for him to actually compete against the likes of Itoshi Rin or even be able to participate in the U20 World Cup. The big hitter came after Ego Jinpachi had announced the Blue Lock rankings, with Shidou being in a mere 15th place. And people were questioning Shidou's relevance even more when they saw how well Itoshi Rin was performing in their match against Manshine City. In this video, I want to discuss how Shidou's comeback is inevitable. However, before we get into it, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It all starts in chapter 244, after the Bastard Munchin guys decide to watch PXG's match against FC Barcha. Itoshi Rin scored the first goal, but after that, Loki was substituting Shidou Ryusei on the pitch together with Tsurugi Zantetsu and Karasu Tabito. And Charles Chevalier was responsible for getting a beautiful pass in towards Shidou and making him score a goal for an uncomfortable angle, which he calls the demon shot. The way he managed to score that goal was through the genius Charles Chevalier. You could see him as a substitute for Itoshi Sei, since they both have crazy accurate passes and both understand Shidou's wants and needs as a striker. However, that still doesn't answer the underlying question of why Shidou struggles to get in the top 10, while Itoshi Rin is literally leading with a value of 180 million that will go up after this game. Well, for this, we have to go back to the end of the third selection tryouts. In chapter 108, Ego Jinpachi announces the 11 egoists that will play in the match against the former Japanese U20 team. We could clearly see that Shidou Ryusei was not a main player, so why was that? Well, Yukimiya took note of it and therefore asked Ego Jinpachi a question, which is why Shidou is not one of the members. He tells Ego that he has scored plenty of goals and even is in the top 2 in terms of strikers. Ego Jinpachi reckons it's an excellent question and tells the egoists that Shidou Ryusei had an average of 2 goals per match during the tryouts, demonstrating the makings of a striker second only to Itoshi Rin. This means that Ego Jinpachi did acknowledge his skills, but there was a catch to it. He said that his behavior outside of matches cannot be overlooked. But it is also true that his physical abilities are extremely high as well. This means that Ego Jinpachi himself is scared about using him too much because of the violence he's displaying, like the time when he literally almost killed Itoshi Rin, which forced Ego Jinpachi to use electric shocks to neutralize him. However, all the goals that Shidou scored were a product of his own skill. In other words, during the tryouts, Shidou Ryusei was unable to spark a chemical reaction even once with Itoshi Rin. This illustrates his egotistical way of playing does not really benefit as much for the chemistry as a team on its whole. Of course, egoism is a good trait to have, since that's what Blue Lock is about, as ego would be quite literally contradicting himself. But there's a difference between having a big ego and literally disregarding the other 10 players on the field with him, because Ego Jinpachi aims to bring the most out of all the egoists involved, not just Shidou. But by far the biggest reason would be his flagrant display of violence at the end of the match. If he were to do such a thing during the U20 match, he'd get a red card, putting their team at an overwhelming disadvantage. This could also contribute to why teams haven't been willing to bid so much on Shidou, although we don't know if he has used violence in his time with the PXG team yet. So for those very reasons, he made the decision that Itoshi Rin and Shidou Ryusei should not stand on the same pitch, which Loki realized quickly as well. But there is one more thing, which is that they wouldn't be able to handle the egoist Shidou Ryusei. Someone who could understand his thoughts and raise the level of his play does not exist within Blue Lock. But we have a few candidates now that do, which are of course Itoshi Sei and the newfound prodigy Charles Chevalier, who are both midfielders. It makes so much sense that he went up to Shidou Ryusei and recruited him personally out of curiosity. But of course, it would be a waste to not make use of his abilities like Yukimiya had stated, so that's why he was intended to be a joker that would replace Itoshi Rin as a powerful drug that could completely reverse the flow of the game. But even though he has people like Charles Chevalier on his side, he isn't able to really break through and triumph as a striker, which reflects his bids, and Itoshi Rin's insane performance against Manshine City has completely overshadowed the guy. Going back to chapter 244, Isagi noticed that Shidou is a very bad shot taker and maker, but still had genius levels. And those genius levels come from his instincts. He can always find the goal no matter in what kind of position you put him, which is a trait that makes him pretty unique. The other egoists from Bastard Munchin were in awe, reflecting on how good he is. and the crazy talent and potential of both the Rin-centric and Shidou-centric system. But Isagi noticed that the pass Charles Chevalier made was completely intentional, even though it wasn't really a favorable position to shoot from. But he knew that Shidou could do it, which shows a lot of trust and faith in his abilities. Isagi told the others that his assistance to Rin was planned out as well, delivering a pinpoint pass with some backspin so that Rin had more scoring options. Charles Chevalier is good. Hiyori continues, adding that not only does he have a good understanding of Shidou's instinctive play style, but he can also sync and match up with Rin's vision and playmaking, which makes him a very deadly player that Bastard Munchin must watch out for, as I've explained in detail in my video on Charles Chevalier. The reason PXG can win with two polar opposite playing styles is because of the beautiful passes number 6 dishes out. At the end of chapter 245, we have seen that Shidou had scored against FC Barça for the second time through a header, which resulted in PXG winning 3-2. This means that Shidou has actually outperformed Itoshi Rin in this match. But why did Loki keep him on the pitch after he had scored the second goal? Trying to figure out how his system and dynamic with those two works would be quite the task. But what I can ascertain from this is that at the very least, Loki gives both of them a chance every single match. It would be quite unfair if he didn't, and if Loki didn't do that, Shidou would have probably snapped and gone wild, which would have resulted in losing one very valuable player on the team. So with this information, that would pretty much mean that Itoshi Rin just outperformed Shidou Ryusei like crazy in their match against Manshine City, and not the fact that Shidou just didn't get put in. I just don't see Loki doing that, to be honest. Another possibility is that Loki just hadn't invented these two different machines that Itoshi Rin and Shidou Ryusei are operating in right now. Maybe he was just in a testing phase, which could have resulted in Shidou not really having much significance as well. But luckily, Shidou is doing great right now. This gets further confirmed by Hiyori because he told the Bastard Munich guys that even though Livigno came on the pitch together with Otoya to help Bachira get out his peak performance, in the end, it still wasn't enough thanks to Shidou's contributions. And Loki had probably not even substituted in as well, mind you. That's just how strong Shidou is right now. So in the same way that FC Barça maximized Bachira's performance, they at least now have done the same thing with Shidou through the system that they've created. So the thing that Shidou has to do now is to prove his worth through scoring goals in their match against Bastard Munchin. He has to find this extra push and reason to completely destroy Itoshi Rin and either have a higher bid than Itoshi Rin or just get very close. Either way, his place inside of the U20 team would be secured, especially now that Ego Jinpachi sees how Julian Loki is succeeding with the demon Shidou Ryusei. But now we'd have to ask ourselves who that guy will be that will support Shidou Ryusei inside of the U20 World Cup tournament, since Charles Chevalier isn't Japanese. So is there actually anyone inside of the Blue Lock facility that are originally from the Blue Lock program able to keep Shidou in check and create chemical reactions with him? The first person that comes to mind is Karasu Tobito. The reason why I'm choosing him is because he works really well as a midfielder, as he quite literally is the center defensive midfielder of the PXG team. He quickly managed to steal the ball from Otoya through a sliding and pass the ball toward the dashing Zantetsu. From the third selection, we could also see that he has really good observational skills. He even has it outside of the field, as we have seen in his conversation with Hiyori. So he could possibly link up with Shidou in the U20 World Cup. The second person that comes to mind is Itoshi Sei, because we have quite literally seen that those two can work wonders together. Itoshi Sei understands him very well, can make crazy plays with him, and has accurate passes too. So that would pretty much be a no-brainer. What I think could happen through all the knowledge that we have gained about Shidou and PXG in the last couple of chapters is that Ego Jinpachi will make multiple lineups as well, one being centered around Itoshi Rin and Isagi, and another one around Shidou Ryusei. Karasu could play and link up with Rin and Isagi, while Shidou could link up and play with Itoshi Sei. Let me know what you think about this theory in the comments section. Watch this video on your screen next, manga readers. I'm out. Peace.